Article 18. Article 18 is to appropriate matching funds for a study of incorporating cultural uses into the former state hospital redevelopment. We do not have a positive motion from the Warrant Committee. Do we have a positive motion?
We do.
We have a positive motion from the Selectmen.
We move that the town appropriate $25,000 and to meet said appropriation, transfer $25,000 from free cash to provide matching funds for a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts or other sources, the purpose of which is to create architectural and engineering plans incorporating cultural uses into the redevelopment of the former state hospital site.
Okay. And do we have a report from the Warrant Committee?
Yes. We move that the Article 18 be dismissed.
Okay, and a report?
Sure. This article is seeking an appropriation of $25,000 from the town to provide half of the matching funds from a $50,000 grant from the Commonwealth that has not yet been approved. The Cultural Alliance of Medfield says it will try to raise another $50,000 from private sources to assist with this project. If the Commonwealth's grant comes through, the funds procured through the Cultural Arts Matching Grant will be used to create architectural and engineering plans for cultural uses of the Lee Chapel and Infirmary at the State Hospital site. The Medfield State Hospital Master Planning Committee is in the process of completing a master plan for the hospital land that will include preferred uses on the property. The master plan has not yet been reviewed and approved by the town. Given that, the Warrant Committee believes that allocating funds to a particular use at the hospital at this point is premature, especially during a year when the town is facing several overrides. The Warrant Committee believes that any action on this article would be more appropriate once the master plan has been approved. The Warrant Committee recommends dismissal of this article.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments?
May I speak briefly on this, Scott?
Please do.
Yeah. Just briefly from the Selectmen's perspective, and this is $25,000 to advance an effort by private citizens essentially to privately renovate the Lee Chapel for cultural uses. In almost every version of redevelopment plans for the hospital, if one building is going to be saved at the hospital, it's the Lee Chapel. Gene Mineo can speak more about the timing of the upcoming grants. I think Gus described this at our meeting a couple of weeks ago. This is sort of placing a very small bet on the possibility of a large payoff. I mean, the long-term plan here is for private funding and renovation for this. And if that can be accomplished with a little bit of a start from the town, that would begin to cut into some of the things we need to do at the hospital and can serve as a catalyst for further development. We think this is a small bet with a potentially big payoff for a large problem for the town. So we're in favor of moving ahead with this and trying to move the Medfield State Hospital from the hypothetical to the reality this year.
Thank you. Microphone number 1.
Laurel Scotty, 10 Green Street. I haven't been in this town very long, but if there's one thing I know for sure, if Jean Mineo says she's going to do something, it gets done. And all you have to do is look at Straw Hat Park and enjoy Holiday Stroll. That's my case.
Thank you. I'm Jean Mineo from Alder Road. Just a quick background. I've also been a member of the Resource Committee to the Master Planning process for the past 3 years, since December of 2014. This is a proposal for a cultural center that would renovate the Lee Chapel for the Performing Arts Center and a building next to it for an educational center. This is a proposal that's integrated within the master plan, and it has been for quite some time. It has been endorsed by the Master Planning Committee. The plan is essentially done. You will see a single preferred use coming, but the master planning process comes with a package that includes zoning regulations and design guidelines. Those are the last pieces that are being put in place now. All of that will be ready. It's projected in the next month in June. So within the master plan, the Cultural Center does several things. It maintains public access to the property. We've heard that's a priority from the community every year for several years. It activates the core campus with public programs, and it preserves the chapel, another key piece of the hospital property that we've heard from the town through the years. It's also expected to improve the assessed value of the rest of the property. It'll increase the attractiveness for developers, and it can help with the long-term absorption of any future housing units should the town decide to develop the rest of the property. In short, it's a key anchor for the rest of the development. What's important to know with this is that the Cultural Alliance is committed to raising these funds, both to renovate and to operate this cultural center going forward with no ongoing town support. So just to clarify a misstatement that was in the report that you got, the town actually applied for the grant, and the grant was $50,000. I was able to confirm with the state that Medfield has been recommended for funding. I got that word on Friday. We don't know what that amount will be until June. That funding will go to the town of Medfield, not to the Cultural Alliance, but that grant has a requirement of a direct one-to-one match that has to be raised within 12 months, and that clock starts ticking in June. So what this project is for the schematic phase. We've done a feasibility study, we've done a market analysis, we've raised money to do our own, have a third party do a financial analysis for us. This is a logical next step within the process. The total project budget for this phase is $115,000. So the Cultural Alliance will be raising another $40,000 to $50,000. Again, it's a one-time request to save the municipal asset of the Lee Chapel for public use, operating independently of the town's budget. So the article, as Mike Marcucci said, is really for seed money to attract the private investment with significant returns. It's also a precursor to the state's other larger capital grants of about $700,000 a year, which we would be able to apply for annually. So the bottom line is that this is a grant from the state that is coming to the town for this phase, and you, as the voters, are asked to provide this one-time seed funding and be the smallest portion between the three partners as a catalyst for the private investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Gene.
Russ Hallisey, 11 Ledge Tree Road. This is another example of an item that we need to consider that really has a broad-based need throughout the town, like the schools, like the rec center. This is the cultural items that are most likely already included in the master plan for the state hospital. But I'm speaking on my involvement with a few organizations in town, of the many. Board member of the Lowell Mason House and a board member of the Medfield Lions Club, and then also as a chairman of a couple of projects in Memo, Medfield Day, and summer concerts for some 15 years. These three organizations are an example of many in Medfield that have events through the year involving fundraising and social events, often centered around cultural programs and activities. We even have a couple of Memo businesses that will benefit from performance areas up there. Medfield currently has limited options for accommodating events, as well as having to deal with the challenge of parking throughout the town. These organizations and all the others in town will benefit from the incorporation of the cultural uses at the state hospital grounds by creating new venues as options for our events with adequate parking. These small funds will help move forward the decision on what level of cultural uses will be included in the hospital master plan, and in effect will help the master plan committee in moving forward with their decisions. So I support this.
Thank you. Okay, this is my required time check at 10:30. I'm going to deem that we are going to finish tonight. So I really would appreciate, in fact, beg you to try to stay through the last two articles that we'll move through with dispatch so that we can maintain our quorum. This is like running a marathon and stepping off at 25 and a half miles. So please just stick with us to the finish line. Steve?
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. Steve Nolan, Chair of the Medfield State Hospital Planning Committee. I just wanted to give my support to what Mr. Marcucci said and to what Jean said. Although the plan has not been presented to the town yet, we've done a huge amount of outreach to the town, and a couple of the themes that came through loud and clear were to try to save the Lee Chapel if at all possible, and also to try and create some public uses up there that would draw the town and make the town proud. And so the committee has been encouraging Jean's group in their efforts to bring about this cultural facility at the core of the campus, which I think is Selectman Marcucci said, would sort of activate the site and be a significant draw for whatever else the town decides to do up there. So I think this is a terrific effort on Jean's part, and the committee supports it, and we hope you'll vote to approve this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bob Tormey, 36 Harding Street, speaking in support of this motion. We want to thank the Warrant Committee and all the committees across the town who have worked regularly and actively toward understanding what this hospital site means to the town, both its costs and its risks, but also its future potential. The words were used that it was premature to be considering this article, but I believe it is very timely with regard to the topic of the motion, which is this grant from the state. So dollar for dollar match from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts if contributed by the town of Medfield, supported by private donors as well. We have this partnership. And the whole purpose of this partnership is to improve, redevelop, and activate the state hospital by addressing the very core and heart of this campus. This work will indeed increase the value of the entire property and make it attractive to others, therefore providing an economic benefit to the town. In addition to that, once it's up and operating, it will become a point of interest and attract interest from outside of the town, as well as being publicly accessible and enjoyable by Medfield citizens. So it becomes an economic, long-term economic interest to this town as well. So this is not a motion that we really want to delay, to put up a yellow light. We really want to turn this light green. We want to start turning this property around and make it work for Medfield and for our enjoyment. And therefore, I urge everyone to vote in favor of this motion.
Thank you very much. Last comment, microphone number 2.
Hi, Bill Pope, 4 Crane Place. I'm speaking in support of Article 18. I believe it's very important at this time for the town to show some support for the project to convert a couple of buildings on the state hospital site into a cultural center. In 2014, when the town purchased the state hospital land, I think there were a lot of people who thought that this represented an opportunity to do something great up on the land that we could all share and that we could all enjoy. Clearly, there's going to be a fair amount of housing up there, condos, apartments, perhaps housing for the elderly. And I think the challenge then has always been to strike a balance between private development up there and future public use. And I think that the cultural center, the planned cultural center, goes a long way towards striking that balance by creating a place that we would all have access to and can enjoy. Everyone knows the State Hospital site is a beautiful place with views of the Charles River, gorgeous fields, wonderfully designed architectural buildings, and a campus-style layout. It's an ideal place for an art center, an inspirational place, a perfect place for artists to create, to work, and to perform, and it would achieve the goal of continued public access and enjoyment of the site, one of the main reasons we purchased the land in the first place. Jean and her people have donated hundreds of volunteer hours over the past few years and have come up with a very well thought out, well-designed plan to build this cultural center, and I believe it's extremely important at this time to show them our support, to give them a relatively small amount of seed money to keep the project going, and I believe the return on our investment will be great. It will become a real asset to the town that we can enjoy for many years, so I urge you to please support Article 18.
Thank you. Let's put Article 18 to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.